Why don't students like school? Because the mind is not designed for thinking, by Daniel T. Willingham. Daniel T. Willingham is the professor of cognitive psychology at the University of Virginia. He is the author of numerous articles, including his regular article, Ask the Cognitive Scientist, for the American Educator. Solving problems. People like to solve problems, but if the problems are unsolvable, people do not like to try and attempt them. People are naturally curious, but are not naturally good thinkers. Unless the cognitive conditions are right, people will avoid thinking. Thinking requires effort and is usually slow and unreliable. Other functions, such as seeing and moving, operate more efficiently than thinking. Seeing and moving take up more space in your brain than thinking does. Thinking is slow, effortful, and uncertain. Memory thinking. Mostly we don't think, we rely on memory. The memory system is more reliable than the thinking system. For most of your problems that you have faced before, you just do what you've done in the past. You don't need to create a new solution. You will rely on what you have done before. For most decisions, you don't consider possible consequences. You just go on what memory tells you is right. And repeating tasks will cause your brain to change. Whenever you feel like you're on autopilot or that you're just going through the motions, it's your brain relying on memory from change to guide your behavior. Curiosity. People actually really like to think. Solving problems brings pleasure. Cognitive work that succeeds brings pleasure. Solving problems gives a rewarding feeling. Neuroscientists have discovered that there is an overlap in your brain, in the brain areas where chemicals that are important in learning and those that are important in the brain's natural reward system. So they've connected that solving problems gives your brain a natural reward. Level of difficulty. Usually people don't receive pleasure on solving a problem that's too easy, or if a problem is too difficult, they decide that it's going to be too hard and they don't even like to attempt it, and so there's also no satisfaction there. The right level of difficulty is rewarding. When you have a problem that's right at the level of difficulty where you're at and solving it gives you that feeling of satisfaction. Working and long-term memory. Your working memory is when you're aware of things around you. So these are such a thing as like the sight of a shaft of light falling on a dusty table, or the sound of a dog barking, but you can also be aware of things that are not in the environment, like the sound of your best friend's voice, or even though they're not there. Long-term memory is where you maintain factual knowledge of the world. And thinking is when you combine information from both the environment and the long-term memory. And successful thinking, though, is knowing how to combine and rearrange ideas from your working memory to think successfully. Cognitive work. Procedural knowledge is the knowledge of mental procedures. You use these procedures to execute different tasks, and it's knowing like when to combine the knowledge and where, and it's compared to as a recipe for how to think. Often information from the environment isn't sufficient, so you have to add information from the long-term memory. When you're teaching, you need to give cognitive work that presents a moderate challenge. So not something too easy where the kids would solve it without any difficulty and it wouldn't give them that pleasure, or it's something too hard where they wouldn't even want to attempt it.
The computer lab is now closed. The meter service and circulation desks will be closing in 5 minutes. If you wish to check out any library books or DVDs, please do so now. Please return all books, videos, headphones, laptops, and other materials at this time. Mahalo.
The library is also good for cognitive work, as you can tell that's where I am. And so you need to make sure your students have background knowledge. If you pose a question or a problem about knowledge that they haven't learned yet, then the problem won't seem nearly as necessary or as important to them. Also, slowing the pace and using memory aids like writing things on a blackboard or using visual and sounds can help kids memorize things. Teaching cognitively is you spend time developing the question instead of focusing on the answer and the info that you want to have them learn. Spend time developing the question so that they are more interested in the question. And start with the info that you want the kids to know at the end, so let them know everything that they're expected to learn, and engage students at the right level of difficulty, because many students will have different levels of preparedness, such as some will have more help at home and others will not have learned as much as the other kids in previous years. And you want to pose surprising questions after the basic concepts that you have learned, and save the cool experiments until later too, so that adding onto the knowledge by watching those experiments, that they can apply the theories that they've learned to the experiments that is happening. And effective teaching is all students are at different levels of preparedness, as I've said, and you need to assign work that is at each of your students' level of competence. So you don't want to assign them work that is too difficult for them or that is too easy to them. But also be sensitive and in assigning groups of different levels of preparedness. And also don't set up kids for failure. The work is too hard for them. You're just defeating yourself and them. And you'll want to shift gears every now and then to gain your class's attention, and write down your successes and failures in a diary so that you know if you need to change something in your lesson plan, or if that went really well and you should try that again.